How are we doing, everybody? Another episode of Slot Shot Podcast, the week leading up to Christmas. So the boys are all over the United States. Alex is in Chicago. I'm in the West in Wyoming. Ross is back home in Boston. Always a pleasure to get the boys. Unfortunate we can't be in person, but glad to be giving you guys another episode. Alex, how we doing back in Chicago? Did the snow hit?
The snow has hit, and yeah, it's coming down a lot, which is fantastic. I'm hoping it's enough so it stays, or maybe it'll even snow on Christmas, but it seems like it's been a while since we've had a white Christmas. So, the holiday spirit in me is very happy right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Glad to hear it. If I'm not mistaken, I think it rained last year, so it would be a little bit of a change. Ross just drove home. How was the drive? How's the world? Nice being home.
Rocking and rolling. Happy to be here, fellas. Ventless drive, all's well. Glad I made it. No sweat, and ready to rock and roll.
Absolutely, absolutely. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. So, since we last talked, and it's been, I think, 2 episodes now, but now we can re-enter the question: do the Rangers not suck? After we've last talked, they did lose on Tuesday night, but since then, rattled off 7 straight. Most recently, big one in Chicago, 7-1 defeat of the Blackhawks in a dominating performance. And if you looked at the stats, it wouldn't have said it would have said it's a little bit of a closer game than it would have looked like. But the fact is, the Rangers capitalized on all of their opportunities. It was an impressive performance. Shesterkin looked great, stopping I think 26 or 25 out of 26. New York Rangers, they're back. Are they back?
I mean, they just beat a really gutsy, talented, and leave it all on the line Blackhawks team. So what's not to like?
And before that, the Flyers.
Right, really the dregs of the league. So what is it a little loosening of the schedule, or are the Rangers back? What do you think, Armdog?
I mean, I think they're back. When we talked about this, like we obviously questioned part of it, but I don't think any of us were concerned about this team long term. And I think this is just things starting to go their way. There's too much talent on this team for it not to be a top team in the league, and it is. I think it would have been different if, like, a couple weeks ago we were sitting here saying, like, the Rangers seem like a team that you want on your schedule, and I think even when they weren't playing well, that wasn't the case. This is a really good team. They're back, and they're just really – I think we're going to look at the end of the season and not blink an eye at the start. Maybe it'll be some sort of storyline, but I don't know. I think this team is back. A little more luck. I talked about the bad shots percentages last time. I think things have just adjusted, and I will say, like, getting a win streak is huge for them because now, like, they get that energy back, right? I think bad luck can sometimes lead to, like, a lost season, and I don't think I think they're too good for that. But it can happen to teams where, like, bad luck, all of a sudden you're halfway through the season and you don't get that energy back. So I don't know. This team's back. I think they are what we thought they were at the beginning of the year.
No, and to kind of reiterate to your point, I mean, as we like to say, and as we know, Alex is a vibes guy. The vibes seem back in that New York locker room. Yes, 2 of those wins in that 7-game winning streak versus rough teams in Philadelphia and Chicago, but impressive wins over Golden Knights in a 5-1 victory. Beat a pretty injured Avalanche team in the shootout, and then knocked off the Devils and Toronto. So some decent teams they beat there for sure. But I don't know. I was at the game on Sunday night, sorry, and I was very impressed about how this team plays in their transition. They're quick. They're getting their shots. They're seeing east to west, and they capitalized in that. I think they really did score 6 transition goals on Sunday versus the Blackhawks. Yes, nothing impressive. Was very impressed. I had never seen Zibanejad actually in person, and I know it's a little bit of a different tangent, but I was really shocked. He's got some serious size. He's all over the ice. I really loved and was enjoying watching Mika Zibanejad in the red, white, and blue.
Look at Jack nailing the name too. Zibanejad, right? He's 6'3". He's thicker than you think, and he moves so well. Like, seeing him in person really is noticeable. So I think Armdog makes a good point, right? I don't know if we were all saying their season's over. I think it was a little bit more of sort of getting the troll bat signal out there to wake up our Rangers fans and keep our listeners in tune. And that's what we'll do from time here on the Slot Shot podcast. So I think they've gotten some better goaltending. You mentioned some of the good wins. Obviously, you need to take care of the bad teams. They did that. including, unfortunately, my St. Louis Blues that are not looking so great, Armor. And what can you say? I think the Rangers are right back in it, but I'm not rushing to say that they're the hottest team in hockey or they're, really, pushing those power rankings and threatening for the top right now, but they got themselves out of a little funk, and you got to do that over 82.
Yep. No, without a doubt. And I think you got to be happy with the sense of they're able to kind of re-enter that conversation of what New Jersey and Carolina were able to jump out to that kind of hot start. And the fact is New Jersey's kind of cooled off in the last few weeks. New York beating them in the month of December, and they're looking to catch them. And they're a point behind Pittsburgh and 5 behind the leaders. So the Rangers, they're right in it. They're right there.
Can we have a quick little discussion about that? Because I'm glad you bring up the Devils there. It seems like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, maybe even a week ago, we'd have a very different vibe towards this division. And it's kind of flipped itself on its head at once, with the Devils kind of just having a very slow, they lost 7 in a row for a team that had like 4 losses before, or 3 losses. I don't know how to think about that. Like, in terms of like a change in a division outlook in 1 week, I think that's kind of crazy. And just a lot more than you'd see from like any 1 week.
No, I mean, pretty extreme pendulum swing there, right? Especially across these two teams in greater New York. I actually tuned into that Devils Canes game, right? You got the Canes. That's my pick out of the Eastern Conference. And I thought it was kind of a big wake-up call game for the Devils. Want to see how they responded. Not great, Bob, is really how they came out. I think they gave up a goal in the first 40 seconds. They really looked like a rattled bunch. It was not ready to go in Raleigh for much of the first 5 to 7, 8, 10 minutes. Found themselves in a 2-goal hole pretty quickly, but they kind of adjusted and battled back. I think Ken Danico, who's one of my favorites, I think he's probably our lowest hanging fruit in accessing Miles Wood and really getting the woodshed onto the national stage. But Dano was pointing out a lot of things and talking about, it's a younger team. They really struggled with their goaltending. They gave up a couple of dog shit goals yesterday, and so their goaltending's kind of letting them down. Saw just a couple of head scratcher plays. A guy we didn't talk a lot about is Graves. I always want to call him Adam Graves, the old Ranger great, but his first name's not Adam. This Graves on D for the Devils, used to be with Colorado, and they shipped him out around the deadline last year, I want to say. And he had a couple of just bonehead failures. There was one sequence, I think it was ruled back on an offside, but they let who was it? It was Brent Burns. They let Brent Burns come in. Thank you, Protesek. Dangle like 4 forwards, and the entire Devils defensive front collapsed into Burns. Everybody's puck watching, and he dishes it out to a wide open, I forget who it was, who put it in an empty net. And the play got called back on offsides, right? But what does that say? It looks like a team that was kind of losing focus. It's getting a little bit rattled. We talked a lot about in our early pods about starts to the season. What does that mean? How do you disqualify yourself? How does that change expectations? And the Devils definitely changed the expectations for their team based on the start. Well, now we're starting to see a little bit of what the concerns were. A lot of the reasons why we thought they were kind of a fringe playoff team. And I think those expectations are still there. Like, after that kind of a start, there's absolutely no excuse not to make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs, Lindy Ruff is probably going to be fired. And I think that they're going to get in. I think that they're going to figure it out and kind of level the ship. But there's a lot of reasons to be concerned there. I think they're going to get things going. They're going to get healthier in the second half of the season. They'll see the first of Palat, right around the February timeline, which could be really when they need him to kind of unfuck themselves and get ready for the late season push and really getting one of those last spots in the playoffs. So they're going to be a good one to watch. We'll definitely have our eyes on them, and a lot to be worried about for the Miles Wood and New Jersey Devils faithful.
Well, without a doubt, and it's funny. I mean, you brought up Lindy Ruff. It's not too often you see a guy go from a coach of the year candidate to potentially being fired.
Jack. From potentially being fired to coach of the year candidate to potentially being fired in a span of 30 games. Like, that's pretty wild.
It is. It's a tale of two stories, and that's the exciting stuff about hockey. I mean, as we talked about a little bit with Detroit last week and how the injuries have piled up, it's what has this done to the Yzer plan, and does this put them significantly behind schedule? I think with how hot New Jersey hopped out of it, I think this would be a bigger disappointment for them to not make the playoffs. But reeling it back into kind of where this helps the Rangers is it's allowing them to pick up ground in the division. And the fact is, I mean, like you said, I think it is a pretty good pick that Carolina is going to come out of this on top, maybe in this division. But if New York, can get themselves into that 2 or 3 spot, that'd be helpful for the Rangers.
Couldn't agree more.
Alex, you got anything on the Rangers before we wrap up, or the Devils?
I just think this has become like a division. Not that it wasn't a division to watch, but I mean, everything's been tossed out the window. I not really, but like it's just there's a lot to watch. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Devils got to look for a response, just a general response to start playing better. So we'll see. It'll be exciting though.
Oh, it's a tale of two different stories. Over the border in New Jersey, things aren't as bright, but in the Big Apple, the big city, things are looking brighter. So the Rangers, do they not suck? Do they suck? Things are looking better for the Rangers faithful, but we'll have to keep watch, and I think that will be a exciting division race throughout the rest of the season. Moving on from the Rangers don't suck to, we got a new rotation of Termite of the Week in the Woodshed, brought to you by Star 6 Media. Let's lead it off with Ross. Who do we got this week for the potential Termite?
Jack asked me about Termite of the Week today, just minutes before going on air, and I quickly jotted down about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 names. So that goes to show you how fired up I am about our budding termite colony. And for those of our new listeners, the Woodshed is a Miles Wood tribute segment that is about Miles Wood and Miles Wood type players. So we're building out a roster, and we're nominating different candidates from across the league. And today, I've got a lot of favorites on my list of 7. Again, just right there at the tip of my fingertips. 7 guys right out of the bat. But I'm going a little bit off the board here with a guy named Blake Lizotte. Now, a lot of people aren't super familiar with Blake Lizotte. He's on the LA Kings. Plays a really, really gritty game at center. He's been pretty much a bottom 6 forward for them. You look at his career, 212 games played, 70 points. Those are termite numbers. That's the kind of thing on paper that a lot of termites, point out. And what kind of jumps out to me was he got on my radar watching them in their playoff series last year. They dragged was it Calgary to 7 games, and nobody really gave him a chance as a low seed, as a young team. And I thought Lizotte really kind of personified who they are playing in front of Todd McClellan, their head coach, who also, side note, did a tremendous podcast interview with 32 Thoughts, the podcast, Elliot Friedman, and
Great
not
podcast.
My favorite, Jeff Merrick. But really, really insightful interview with McClellan. But McClellan's team and the identity, they are really all about forecheck. They're all about structure and pressure. And they're not the most talented team. They've got this kind of core veteran group that is a little bit on the wrong side of it, but still very, very effective. And then they've got a big batch of young players coming up to fill. And Lizotte is kind of that grinder in the middle. Playing the bottom 6 role. He's heavy on the forecheck for a smaller guy. He's you watch him play. He's listed at 5'9". He's probably closer to 5'8". Doesn't stop him from pinballing around out there. Always throwing his body in the way of pucks, into bodies on the forecheck. He's just a hard player to play against. He's always in the right spots. And he's just got a motor, man. Those feet are always moving when he's on the ice. and the legs feed the wolf. So in this case, I guess the legs feed the colony, and Blake Lizotte is my termite of the week for December 22nd, 2022.
I love it. I love it. I think this won't be the this will definitely not be the last time we revisit this Kings team, especially in this segment. The first thing I want to hit off of is his height. Obviously, this is a fast, skilled, paced game. The guys that you see that are a little bit smaller are usually more your skilled, fast-paced guys. The fact is he knew what he needed to do to crack into the NHL. He's an undrafted guy, played at St. Cloud State. So you got.
I was going to say usually smaller guys are more skilled. Not Lizotte.
Yeah.
Not Lizotte.
No, and that's where you got to be. That's where you got to be like, wow, a lot of credit to this guy. The fact is that he's been able to make a name for himself with his size. Gives a lot of credit to him. So I like this pick, and I definitely don't think this will be the last time we're talking about the Kings and the Termites.
I like the pick too. I mean, I think you guys nailed it with like size, grinder, any small grinders. I think they end up being a lot of like favorite players for teams when you have a small grinder, just because it's a lot of energy out there. Other thing I gotta say, I can't say I've watched him, so that's my first reaction here, but that's good, and I will watch him to learn about this new termite nominee. But then the other thing is from Minnesota, and I think Minnesota is probably a hotbed of termites. I like that he played hockey there for college, and I don't know, that just seems like a place that would breed termites. So I'm already interested in this guy, Blake Lizotte. So I like the pick. I'm excited to watch him too. The description fits exactly what you want in a termite, right? Like that's exactly what you're looking to hear. So yeah, great pick.
We'll see. I mean, it's going to be a tough roster to crack, right? Your colony's only as strong as your weakest termite. So,
yep.
There are going to be some tough cuts that we're going to have to make towards the end of the year. But hey, I'm going off the board. I'm going with Blake Lizotte today.
I like it. It's unique because like you said. I mean, you look at Miles Wood. What, he's 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", and that's just not what Lizotte is. And you appreciate the fact that he's able to play a hard, gritty style of play, and I like the pick. It's a strong one. We'll see if he makes the final list, but definitely a good competitor right there. Anything else to finish off on Blake Lizotte and the termite of the week, or I think we'll revisit next week.
Yeah, man, termites come in all shapes and sizes.
Perfect.
It's not about what you're given. It's what
we
you
will. Do. We will put some colony merch. Join the Queen's crew. We'll get some merch out there in the future. Definitely some fun stuff we can do.
Queen Miles
with the termite of the week and the woodshed. So that's the woodshed, brought to you by Star 6 Media. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Always a fun one, and excited to see what this roster looks like by the end of the season, because it's going to be a brute force of guys that are going to take it, and they're going to give it to you. So I like it. So moving on, this would be a little bit of a shorter debate club for us this week. We've got really only one topic, but it was
actually we got a second topic, Jack. I'll segue the second, but you lead with the first. You lead with the first.
Yeah. So obviously Cale Makar, best young, brightest defenseman in the league. Guy's been ripping it up for Colorado ever since he's joined them. Funny play. He's kind of picks up the puck behind the net. Who was the forward that had this? Who was called for the hooking? It was
not important.
But exactly. So a forward. It was Barzal. It was Barzal. So Barzal gets his stick in there a little bit, and Makar loses an edge, and he falls. From the looks of the official, he calls it a penalty. He calls it a hooking, and you see instantly as Makar continues possession and is able to get back up in one swoop motion and continue on with the play. He waves off the ref immediately. He says, "No, get rid of that shit. That's a joke. I just fell." Funny enough, the ref listened to him. So it's something you don't see too often. I think I can't remember. I think Ross brought this one to the table this week. So waving off a penalty. Do we think that's a little bit of sportsmanship? Is that being just take the penalty, take the minutes, take the advantage? What do we got here on this one? Alex, why don't you lead us off on waving off penalties?
Yeah, so I have a take on this. First thing I'll say, never gonna hate on somebody for doing this. I don't think any less of Cale Makar for doing this. Honestly, I just don't think any less of him, and I don't have a problem with him doing that in like a regular season game. I like that he got back up and continued playing. I think that should happen anyways, which in hockey it does because you have delayed penalties, but it's not like where you see a soccer player trying to draw this thing. I like trying to continue to play, right? Play through the hook, whatever it is. If the call comes, great. What I have an issue with is people celebrating Cale Makar as like the best dude ever and like, oh, what a great sportsman. And like, I get it. He did something that like hurt his team to be like a fair player. But at the same time, I'm just like, that's not how the game is. There's mistakes in officiating all the time. If you're going to take that one man stand just to be the good guy, I don't really care. It doesn't make me think more of Cale Makar. It doesn't make me think, oh, wow, this is something we should celebrate. If you want to show your kids and be like, look, he's a good sport because you want to teach them that example, fine. But I also don't think you're a bad sport for just taking a penalty. So to me, it just shouldn't be celebrated. And I really have no issue, or like no issue with the play, no issue with what he did. Fine, whatever. I don't think we should be out here in the streets. Like, wow,
Arm Dog's hot take is, what the hell are we debating? I'm not impressed. I get it. I'm trying to be consistent with this, right? I think I've gone on rants about diving, about embellishment, about officiating, about the over special teaming and the over penalties, and just how annoying it's gotten to be with a lot of ticky-tack calls that just they disrupt the game and they put the refs at the center of attention. And what's ironic to me about this is we talked on previous debate clubs and on previous pods about the role of fighting in hockey. One of the big things about fighting in hockey is that it's the players regulating the game. And this is an example of the players, because I say players because Ovechkin did the same thing. And I think it was either the next night or it was soon enough after, where I'm not so sure that Ovechkin like saw or witnessed what Makar did and was influenced by that. I wouldn't necessarily suggest that Ovechkin was following suit, but Ovechkin did the same thing like within a day of this event. And my stance, again, I need to be consistent, right? I hate diving. So I need to like it when players do the opposite of diving. So I need to support the guys that are waving it off. My second thing is a little bit of a wake-up call to the league that officiating is getting out of control. And the fact that the players have taken it upon themselves to do this, like that speaks volumes to me about, number one, the character of the guys in the league. So sorry, Alex, but I am going to say it's a high character move. I think it's a lot of class, and it's respect for the game.
Yep.
Talk about, respecting the game, especially in our beer league, like when we're blowing teams out. Respect the game. Don't hot dog anybody. Don't, freak out, whatever, like unless there's something to really freak out about. And so I really like that from both Makar and Ovechkin, waving off the refs, something that you won't see it in the playoffs because for two reasons. One, special teams are too important. Any edge to win at all costs. Number two, a lot less ticky-tack bullshit in the playoffs because it's fucking go time. So I love it, and I support it, and I need to stay consistent. So I'm giving a stick tap to Makar and a stick tap to Ovi for that, not for their 801st goal or 212th game played.
Without a doubt. I think you're spot on with the sense of it is a character thing, and that speaks to fair play and respect. And I think you hit the head on. You were perfect on that. I think it's interesting. You came after the refs a little bit, and this is the fastest moving sport besides racing, and if you want to call racing a sport, and it's tough. It was a quick. He got his stick. You could see, his stick was in a position that if he lodged in, yeah, it would have been a hooking, but his stick was there. It was kind of placed on his shoulder, and unfortunately, just Makar lost an edge. The fun thing I like about it, and like we've talked about in review and being able to coaches challenge, you can challenge penalties now. And, I think I saw it actually beginning of the year in Chicago on a high stick, and it was they were going to give a 4-minute major because the guy was bleeding. And then the Hawks challenged it, and it looked like the
friendly fire of his own teammate's stick.
Yep. And so they took the penalty away, no 4-minute, and it was perfect. And so I get it. I know Ross is going to be critical of my statement. Mistakes are made. Fastest game on earth. I know they're paid to be the best refs there are. But I think that's why we're seeing it as rare as we have. Kind of weird that it's happened twice in the span of a week. But
I can't remember it ever happening before. Can you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Arm Dog, ever seen that before in the NHL?
No.
And it happens twice right there in a span of 24 hours. So very interesting. A topic all about fairness. In fairness, I think I've got a little repressed rage about NFL officiating, which we don't need to need to blur into this.
No, we're not. Yeah.
But to your point, Sif, right? Oh, it's great. You can review penalties, you can review everything. Fine, whatever, but just fucking get it over with, right?
Quick.
Like it doesn't take forever to look at it. And I'm back to my replay timer thing, which is not what we're here to debate. But cool. That was Debate Club. I'm all about it. Sif's on board, and Armor says,
I do have one more thing. Well, I don't think I think it's crazy to think that we should celebrate Ovi for not accepting a penalty over his 801st goal. That's a different Debate Club. But one thing I will say that's a positive out of both these two and that I actually liked, these are two winners, right? I think Ovi has a career of being like a hard-nosed, will blur the lines of what is like fair game and not, and that's why he's so good. Part of the reason he's so good. Cale Makar obviously coming off one of the best seasons, like just a fantastic season where you can't really do much more than he did last year. These are winners doing this. So we don't have to hear the bullshit about like, oh, these guys are soft. Like, and I don't think that. So I'm not saying that, and I'm happy we don't, because these are like some of the top winning athletes in the sport right now. Good that it was them who did this. So that's my positive, but I don't think we need to celebrate them as like heroes of the game for not taking a penalty.
I've got a second Debate Club topic.
Yep.
We don't need to go on and on and on forever about it, but I think it's a really interesting subject, and I want to embrace debate here. So one of the big storylines this week was John Tortorella, right? Torts, healthy scratching, his team's leading scorer, Kevin Hayes, who's on a 75, 76 point. He's trending for a 70 plus point season, leading the team in points and producing offensively. And for a team that struggles to score, Torts decides to scratch his leading scorer. Obviously controversial, obviously something that you talk to everybody around, or at least when you listen to the coverage around the Flyers, I don't think that was something that necessarily shocked anyone. I think that there was kind of a steady trend of Torts saying, Hayes, you need to fucking clean this up. Hayes, you need to clean that up. Hayes, I don't like what you're doing without the puck. I don't like how you're doing this. I don't like how you're doing that. And Hayes just keeps scoring points. And Torts eventually said, I don't give a shit if you're scoring points. You're not doing it right. So Debate Club is not, was Torts right or was Torts wrong? I noticed that Keith Yandle, a member of the Philadelphia Flyers just last season under a different regime, took to his platform, right? He's a pretty well-known voice in the hockey community. He's now part of the TNT broadcast. He's very well known through Spittin' Chicklets. And Keith Yandle takes it upon himself to kind of call that out, and to bring that to a top, to a very visible level, and to voice his displeasure about it, because it's no secret he and Kevin Hayes are very, very close friends. Debate Club. Good move backing up your boy by Yandle, or sticking your nose in something that's really none of your business by Yandle? Embrace debate.
I like that. I like the thought of it. I would almost propose a different debate to it, but I don't know. I think it's a little irrelevant just because Yandle's out of the league. Yes, he is a personality on TNT, and he's well within the reporting world of the sport, but yeah, I mean, a little bit of a non-factor to me in terms of what Yandle's words carry. I think obviously Yandle known for the Iron Man streak that was broken by Phil the Thrill. But I see it a little bit as a, irrelevant comment, in my opinion.
Arm Dog.
Yeah. So this is interesting. I was gonna take the irrelevant comment too, but the reason I'm going to back him up here, and they healthy scratched Keith Yandle to end his Iron Man streak. That's how it ended.
But it wasn't Tortorella as coach.
No, correct.
It's true. But I think he was making an organizational point about things. And the reason I get it is because I think people get so like, and this was my first reaction when I saw it. It's like, oh, this guy's, and I think a lot of like the replies to like whatever the Twitter outlets that were posting his critique of it, a lot of the replies were essentially like, "Oh, this guy's salty because like they just ended his Iron Man streak, but he was already done, right?" And that was like kind of the general consensus, right? This guy's just still salty and he's triggered, and it doesn't matter that it's a different coach. He's mad at the organization that they would let this happen, right? And part of me is like, yeah, he definitely comes across as salty because there's a clear recent like backstory to why he'd be upset about something like this, right? But the other side of me is like, what are you doing as a franchise if like that is a way your players think of you, right? Like, and I don't the Iron Man thing, like I get the benching if it was warranted. I didn't watch the Flyers enough last year to know it. I do see Keith Yandle's a guy he may want to bench if you want to change the vibe. Because I think we all can recognize he hasn't been like a stellar defensive player. So like if you have some defensive problems, you may want to switch it up there. But also like, what are the Flyers playing for? I'm sorry, like they're playing like you need to be playing Kevin Hayes. I don't care if Tortorella thinks he's going to have a better defensive team. Like you need to be playing these guys, and it just seems like to me it speaks to like kind of just an incompetent organization at times. When you have, even if you want to trade him, right? You don't like his game, go let him rack up points, build that. Yandle stepping up there, I think it's now his job. I think he did a good thing because he's being talked about, and that's what he wants to do, right? Yeah, it comes across a little salty, but I think he has reason to be salty, and I have no issue with him sticking up for it. I think a lot of people maybe changed their tone when they saw Keith Yandle speaking up about it because they were like, oh, this guy's salty, when in fact they actually agreed with what he was saying. So I don't know. I have no issue with him standing up here. I really don't. It's his job. It's not like he's a random player coming out and doing this. Like this is what he's paid to do, discuss topics like this that people want to discuss. But also I think he was right to speak up about it. Like I think he was backed up by the situation. So I have no problem with it. And I think it was the right thing to do by him. And it's okay that he's salty. It doesn't bother me.
So
I think
go ahead, Jack.
I think because actually, Ross, before I let you go, I think you had an interesting comment on it, and I know you wanted to talk about whether or not Yandle's comment was relevant or not. I think it more speaks to Tortorella, and yeah, Torts is really the only coach in the league that would get the news and the limelight that this is receiving. And yes, I feel like Torts is probably one of the only guys that would realistically scratch and healthy scratch his leading scorer. But I like that, like you said, he's sending a message that, not saying taking out your leading scorer is a successful thing, but I like the coaching message he's saying. Yeah, you're scoring goals for us, but what you're doing in the defensive zone has been worthless and hurting us more than what you're scoring. So I like that he is sort of sending a coach's message a little bit, but because it's John Tortorella, it's just blown up 1,000 because it's Tortorella. But I think looking at it more as a coaching decision and trying to change the way Hayes is, I guess, been approaching the game. And, Jimmy Hayes, Kevin Hayes, sorry, rest in peace, Jimmy. He's a talented forward, big size. He's a guy that could do more on both sides of the puck. And yes, he's scoring, but it sounded like Torts was just trying to send the message that he needs to be an all-around player.
So I think fair points all around, and I want to say this as a disclaimer. Like I love listening to Keith Yandle. I could listen to Keith Yandle talk and debate and analyze and poke fun at pretty much anything all the time. I always seek out his content, and I really like Keith Yandle as a talking head. But this really kind of chapped my ass because I get your point, Armdog. Now his business is getting clicks. His business is being in the news. I get that. But I kind of look at it from the opposite side, which is let all the other talking heads express their opinions on this. Yandle's a little too close to the situation. Like, it's no joke that he's like best friends with Kevin Hayes. That's everybody who's plugged in knows that. And he was also in that locker room last year. I think he still carries a lot of weight with the existing team and roster. And I think his comments are, one, unnecessary. Two, frankly, unqualified, because if you look like Tortorella's whole defense, and I've got plenty of problems with Tortorella, and I think he makes it about himself too often, and there's a whole rabbit hole to go down about Torts. But with Hayes, it's like, number one, dude, what's Torts trying to do? He's trying to build a winning culture on a losing team. Mm-hmm. That's tough. Mm-hmm. What the fuck does Keith Yandle know about a winning culture? Like, what did Keith Yandle ever want? Right? Like, he and I'm not saying that he was a bad player and that he was the reason his teams lost, but like, he's always been a very popular player on very underwhelming teams. And that is like there are a lot of different personalities in the locker room, and there are guys that kind of go with the flow, and there are leaders that lead the team through battle and that you want to run through walls with. There are also leaders that sneaky drag on the team and sneaky separate the team from its real objectives. And I'm not going into hindsight and saying Yandle was this, negative force on all the teams he played with. That's definitely not what I'm trying to say, but it's just like, dude, shut the fuck up. Hey, I thought Hayes handled it like a complete pro. Hayes' 2 cents were, hey, I want to play every night. I always want to play every night. Of course I disagree. He's the coach. I'm the player. Move on. And I really liked how Hayes came across it. And I just thought that Yandle's kind of bitching about it was just unnecessary, sticking his nose into a place that he left. Not necessarily on the best of terms, by the way. And, I just thought it was unnecessary. And I thought it's kind of another symptom of this kind of crybaby player culture thing where, this whole line between authority, between coaches and locker rooms is really starting to blur in the NHL.
Yeah.
You saw it in Boston. They ran Bruce Cassidy out of town despite his success because they didn't like him. Now it's hard to argue with the results with Montgomery, but there are other examples of this. And I definitely don't like the trend. And I think in this specific instance, I say bad on you, Yandle, because you have so many interesting things to talk about and you're so just hilarious and entertaining. Talk about anything else. Don't just be a bobo for your buddy when you completely don't have an objective opinion. You're completely subjective about this. You're pissed at the Flyers. Your best friend just got benched. It's a low-hanging fruit target like Torts in this sense. And, oh, by the way, your comments, I disagree. I don't think it's irrelevant. I think it is relevant. I think his comments, and I think he still carries a lot of weight. And so I think it's kind of irresponsible for him, honestly, to go out and to make a point like that. It's not like Kevin Hayes doesn't know that Yandle has his back. It's not like there's a lot of pretty much everyone's unified and critiquing Torts about this, and the people on the inside are going to be the people on the inside. So I suppose unnecessary and irresponsible is another word. Maybe a little heavy-handed, but I thought it was just kind of a bad look for Yandle, unnecessary, and for a guy that I really, really like as a talking head and definitely had a really impressive career. I just thought it was kind of tacky.
No, like you said, I think if Jans had said what Hayes had said, I don't agree with the decision. It is the coach's decision. That's all you need to say. And yes, Yandel's now in the business that he needs the clicks and he needs the views, and then that's what's going to keep him going in that sense. But I think if he had just said, this is Torts' decision, I'm sure it's Torts' decision on its own. I do not agree with it. I know Kevin doesn't. But
so Jack says irrelevant quote from an irrelevant voice. Sif says, yeah, it's his job. Let him run his mouth. And Rusty says, shame on you, Yandle. That's Thursday Night Debate Club.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Love it as always. A little debate club with the boys. Can't go wrong. A little waving off penalties. And Kevin Hayes, leading scorer in Philadelphia, healthy scratched. Moving on. And yes, it's Saturday's picks. But it's the holidays. And with that being said, the NHL is taking Saturday off. So what the boys have decided pre-podcast is, since we're on a heater, 2-week streak for the boys, 3-0. And we said we got to continue it. We got to keep it going. We got to keep the fans happy. We got to get our plays out there. So what we're going to do this week is it's going to be Saturday's picks on Friday. So the game slate on Friday will be this week's competition. We'll see what is happening in terms of the standings. Your boy, 5-1, easy money. Ross and Alex tied at 4-2. It's a close race. They're still a game back. So big loss for me could tie things up real quick. But if the boys stay hot and stay consistent, it should be an exciting race throughout the year. Getting into Saturday's picks on Friday, I'm going to lead us off. And what is my game going to be? It is going to be Bruins, Devils in New Jersey. Ross, I'm taking the Bruins.
All right. Coming off back-to-backs. You got a tough game against Winnipeg in about 15 minutes. So I'll be watching that. So I'll definitely be tuned in tomorrow. Probably tuned in tomorrow night. We'll see how the Friday afternoon goes. But all right, Jacko, he's on the Bees at the Rock. What about you, Arm Dog? Am I next, or is Armor going third?
I will let Alex go since you've been going second lately and you guys are tied. Alex has picked things up as of late after getting off the Leafs train.
I thought we had a rotation, but anyway, go ahead, Arm Dog.
Yeah, I mean, we're all hot right now. I just got to say that. So I'm happy with all of our picks. What I'm going to go with here, though, it's kind of an interesting slate. I think there could be some cancellations because there's some weather coming across the U.S. So I'm a little bit interested to see how that all works. I know the Wings game has already been postponed. So we'll see. But assuming all games play, I'm going to go with an underdog on the road, both teams on back-to-backs. So I feel like this will be a little interesting of a game. Could get screwed by a goaltender decision here, but that's okay. I'm going to take the Winnipeg Jets to go into Washington, D.C., take win off the Caps. They are underdogs, so this is a little bit of a moneymaker. But, I mean, we know I like the Jets. I think it'll be interesting. Both teams on back-to-backs. We'll see how that goes.
Love it. To quote Big Daddy, the goddamn Jets keep winning. All right, so I've been pretty much picking chalk in here since my first, Give
us a good one. Give us a juicy one.
You want the juice, you want the flavor, but Rusty's not a crowd pleaser. All right, so I'm sorry, listeners. All right, I'm going to the very bottom of the barrel. Okay, if you've ever done Dunkaroo, where your feet are held up in the air and your face goes down to the bottom of a cooler of ice to freeze your face and you pop up and shotgun a beer, you know about really getting to the bottom of that barrel, really, really getting the face down there to the very bottom of it. So I'm going to put our listeners through probably the worst viewing experience of the year. And I'm picking the Columbus Blue Jackets to go into the United Center, the UC in Chicago, and come out with a win as the worst team in the East plays the worst team in the West at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Friday, December 23rd. That's my pick, Columbus Blue Jackets. I had a couple termites around that game I could have nominated, but I held off. And I'm sticking with the pick. I'm going with the CBJ.
CBJ's picking. Folks, you're not going to want to watch this game. That's the first thing I'm going to put on it. It's not a crowd pleaser. Columbus, Chicago. I had a feeling I saw that.
Watch him now. Watch him now before the trade deadline, before the rosters get fleeced. You won't be out watching these teams in the playoffs. So do a little scouting. See if there's some pieces that your team maybe wants. Check it out. Check it out, listeners.
Funny enough, Ross, I think, and I just was seeing it off ESPN quickly, and I'm trying to look for tomorrow. I think Columbus might be the underdogs right now. So they're 105. They're 105. Chicago's 115. So, hey, we'll see.
Underdog, baby. I love the pick. I was looking at this game. It was so tasty. So I'm very happy.
It's a termite of a game pick, eh?
Yeah.
It literally is. And I didn't want to take because I really don't have faith in either of the teams. So I'm glad somebody put their neck out there. Love it.
We'll see. I'm risking sinking to the bottom of the standings, but we shall see.
Let's see quickly just to put that into a little parlay. We're looking at plus 684. So our highest total on a parlay potential. We'll post that graphic out probably tomorrow morning.
No biscuit.
Yeah, no risk, no biscuit. But no, that's another exciting Saturday's picks on Friday. As we ended last week, I think we had a little victory lap, no? And I think it was within the case of a little Hronek, as he's already made his way back into the lineup. The boys thought it was going to be a quick one. Alex thought it was going to be a few weeks. Hronek's already back in the lineup. Big little quick victory lap. Ross, you got anything?
I thought, we watched the hit and everybody's so quick to rush. CTE, concussions. We watched the hit. His head didn't hit the ice. He got jacked up. Arguably soft of him to even leave the game because he clearly wasn't diagnosed with anything. And I said he'd be playing before the new year. Didn't miss a game. I think Arm Dog said he'd be out a couple months. So suck on that.
I didn't say that.
Stuck on that, Arm Dog.
You thought a few weeks. Arm Dog thought a few weeks.
I thought a few weeks, but let's relax on the soft for a guy who played the next game. The biggest hit of the year, okay?
I think he's calling you soft.
Oh, maybe, but that's fine.
No, I
just don't call my boys soft.
Boys. As we said, it is, as Ross said, it's Thursday, December 22nd. This will be posted to you guys tomorrow on the 23rd. After that, Christmas, Hanukkah's wrapping up. So for everyone, have a happy holidays. Always a pleasure to sit down with you guys. We're going to try and give you one next week with the new year. We'll figure out that schedule and we'll post that out. Rusty, Alex, any final words for the guys before the new year or before the Christmas and holiday break?
Said it all on my victory lap. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to our listeners. God bless.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll reiterate that and tail the parlay. Get back some of that money you spent during the holidays, okay?
All last note on the parlay. Just remember, we're not experts. We like to think we're experts, but we're not financially responsible for any losses due to that parlay. Take it at your own risk. Go follow Star 6 Media on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, all the social media platforms. We're there. Check out all the other podcasts, EAFP, JCA Sports, Only Football, Big League Chicago, 3 Up, 3 Down, and now Slot Shot Podcast, a hockey podcast. So it's a fun one, exciting. Ready to send it to the Christmas break. Everyone have a good one. Happy holidays. Stay safe with the weather. And we'll talk soon, boys.
CBJ.